Nature's Study. It's a 1 mana spell. 1 mana spell, discover. There's a theme here, all the studies, right? So you got 1 mana spell, discover a spell. Your next spell costs 1 less. This is pretty good. It's a free spell, basically. Free dig for a spell. Druid has some pretty powerful spells. You got Force 8, you got Swipe, you got Bees, you got some Savage Roar finishers, you got all sorts of cool stuff. I think for its flexibility in Druid, I think it's really strong. And I think it's a great card, giving it... So I'm going to put it as an 80 for now. Most of the dig cards in the 70s. And then some of the worser dig cards like the Battlecry, Discover Battlecry card is like in the 60s. But this card, because there's no real drawback to it, because you actually get all these study cards, you get the 1 mana back. It's actually a really good card. So you don't lose tempo this way. You don't overpay for the spell, you just have the flexibility. Can you make the cards bigger? I can't. The only way I can do that is by... Can I zoom in here? Okay, we can do it like this so we can get a better look. Does that help? Helps a lot? Okay, good. So there's all these study cards in this set. All of them are good because they don't lose the tempo, so it's all really, really strong. Yeah, I mean, it's a great card in my opinion. So, and it's a common too. We'll see lots of these, so I like it. Next card we have for Druid is Gibberling. It's a 1 mana 1/1 spell burst. Summon a Gibberling. So I assume this minion is chainable, so you can basically summon a whole board of them. Because after you summon one, you can play another spell and summon another one. So that's kind of like the gimmick with this card. It's better than the old Gibberer, I guess, because you can spam it all together. You don't have to pay for the additional 1/1. But I mean, it's still 1 mana 1/1. Usually 1 mana 1/1s are gonna be like in the below average to the bad spot. But this one, it does have some okayness with Druid with their spell spams and wide boards. So you can definitely build a board with this card with like Blessing of Ancients, Power of the Wild, and stuff like that. So I could see this card being like maybe semi-average, but I have it at a 50. 50 is basically borderline average or below average. For reference, a River Krolesk is a 57 for most classes. Turn 7 combo. Yeah, so you know, it could be a little bit of a tempo push if you play like this card plus Power of the, Rising Winds on turn 2 or something, and then you get an extra 1/1. Like, that's kind of nice, right? So, I could see this card doing some stuff. Like, it's definitely better than the old Gibberer or whatever that card was. So, alright, so we go on to the rares. Twilight Runner, it's a 5 mana 5/4 stealth, so it's 1 health less than the Stranglethorn Tiger, which is solid. Whenever this attacks, draw 2 cards. Hey, that's a pretty freaking good card. That's a pretty freaking good card. So it's basically guaranteed to draw 2 cards unless you somehow destroy this minion in stealth with 4 health. I don't think that's happening. Definitely not happening. So I mean, this card is super good. It's super playable. Stealth means it always gets some kind of initiative back on your turn. And you always get 2 cards. You might even get more than 2 cards if this thing stays alive. Oh yeah, Tyrant can take care of this. Yeah, sure. But right now it's rated at 91. To put things in perspective, a 91 puts it in some pretty heavy company here. So 91 puts it ahead of Druid of the Claw, ahead of Bees, behind Force 8, obviously Wing Guardian. It's around Embiggen level. So I have it slightly higher than Embiggen, but I think Embiggen might actually be higher. So this is a pretty premium card. It's also a beast, but there's not really any beast synergies right now. So this Twilight Runner is a really excellent card. In terms of neutrals, it's probably around Pick Krolesk, the Corruptor, 5 mana 4/4 Corruptor, Evasive Worm. I think I might pick this card over those cards. Okay, so next card is Partner Assignment. 1 mana, add a random 2 cost and 3 cost beast to your hand. Hey, this card is pretty good. You draw 2 cards for 1 card, and they so happen to fill your curve. So if you have this in your opening hand, you play this on turn 1, you instantly have something to play on turn 2 and 3. Pretty good. Yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, you know, you play it on turn 6, you have 2 minions, right? It's still just stuff from thin air, right? So the way I see it right now is that this meta is going to be a pretty heavy value. It's already a heavy value meta. There's a lot of reset cards, a lot of cards that are very high tempo, very wipe the stuff off the board. So there's going to be a lot of reload needed. Add this with the previous sets of very high value discovers, high value minions. You're going to have a pretty high value meta, I think. So having stuff out of thin air is pretty good. Theoretically, you're going to have no 2 and 3s. Yeah. So I have it in the great. Basically, I have like whenever 1 card can draw 2 for a very good deal. Like this is a good deal. It's about an 80. Makes it a great card. But I'm not too sure if it's going to be like any higher than this. It could be worse, but the pool for beasts and the pool for beasts in this expansion are quite good actually. They released some pretty good beasts. We'll touch on that later, but the beast pool definitely got improved. Next card is Survival of the Fittest. This card's a pretty heavy card. It's a 10 cost spell from Druid. The last 10 cost spell from Druid was Ultimate Infestation. This card is no Ultimate Infestation, but the more I look at it, the more I think of it as a decent finisher. If you can get to 10 and be in a kind of even footing, this card just sends your deck over the edge. You need something on the board for this card to be good. That's the problem with this card. So 1, minimum 2 minions, this card becomes insane. You just cast 2 Blessing of Kings, plus your whole hand gets huge, and then your whole deck gets huge. So I have it in the great slot. I mean, this card is passable for some cards. So I'll put this in retrospect. So great is like, you know, Tree Enforcement. It's a 1 mana 2/2 with flexibility. Ancient of War. Like, these are just good, solid cards, right? So this is where I have Survival of the Fittest. I think it's a really good card, and it's a good finisher for Druid. If you have 1 minion, even 1 minion on the board, I think with the Kings and then with the added benefit of the hand buff and the deck buff, this might be enough to make this kind of worthwhile. But I think you need something on the board for this to be good. Because you can't play 10 mana and do nothing. That's the problem, right? So. Alright, and we're down to our legendary for Druid. Forest Warden Omu. 6 mana, 5/4, spell burst, refresh your mana crystals. I think this card is pretty good. It feels kind of constructed but I think it's pretty good. Druid generally has kind of cheaper spells. They do have some expensive spells, but they generally have cheaper spells like Wrath, Bees, Power, Rising Wind. Kind of smaller spells. So the benefit from this card is that you can refresh a lot of mana for relatively cheap. The drawback is you need cards to use up that mana. So, but I think this card has some potential. But yeah, I don't know. I have it in the great slot. It's like Karn. Would I take this over Karn? Maybe I would think about it. Would I take this over Ysera? Maybe think about it. Um, but this is going to be one of those really high tempo legendaries. But it needs some help. I think this card probably could be worse than what I have it at. Like I could see it being like a 70 maybe. But those are the Druid cards right now. So those are excluding the dual class cards, right? So I think Druid overall, like if you just look at where Druid cards are, all the cards are generally pretty good. They're great. I mean, you have the Twilight Runner. You have the really nice Twilight Runner here. You got the draw cards, Survival of the Fittest, Big Finisher, Nature Study is really good. Nature Study is going to be pretty strong. Yeah, if you can get to Nature Study and then discover like Survival of the Fittest or Forest Aid, those are really strong finishers. But I think Druid came out pretty good from this expansion. We'll have to go through the dual class cards, I think, during our neutral analysis, I think. Alright. Let's see here. Next class is Hunter. Alright, so Hunter. Hunter, we have Wolper Tinger. It's a 1 mana 1/1. Summon a copy of this. It's effectively the same as Alley Cat. So Alley Cat was a 1/1 that when you had a battle cry that summoned a 1/1. But this one summons a copy of itself, which has some upside with the hand buffs and stuff like that. So there is some beast hand buffs and there's some beast draw buffs in this rotation. So this card can be better than a 1/1. But I do have it in the great. I think Alley Cat's a 79, so right now we put this at an 80. I think that's pretty fair. It's still at the end of the day just a 1-drop. But 1-drop with 2/2 stats split over 2 bodies is still pretty decent. And it's a beast and it's good in Hunter, so it's going to be a good card, great card in Hunter for sure. The next one is Karen Studies. So Karen Studies is the discover card for Hunter. You discover a Death Rattle minion. Your next one costs 1 less. So, like I said, these 1 cost reductions are great because they carry over. You don't have to use it on the same turn. They carry over as well. So these 1 cost reductions are great. You don't lose tempo by playing this spell. Death Rattle is usually pretty good value. The problem is that it's delayed, so you don't get that value until later. But I mean, there's some really good death rattles in this expansion. Strong death rattles, and Hunter already has some pretty good death rattle minions as well, like High Mane, Porcupine, like even just something like that. Scribe, Sky Stalker. There's that new 8/8 dragon. So there's some good cards here. This is a value dig. It won't help you immediately, most likely, because most Death Rattle cards don't have initiative, but they do generate value. So it's at a solid 75. I think that's a pretty good starting point for it in terms of a Discover card. So I have it under good. We can look at Hunter. So Karen Studies, so this is the ballpark where Karen Studies would be. Kill Command, we have it, like I have it better than Houndmaster. I would pick this card over Houndmaster. Would I pick it over Deadly Shot, Hunter's Pack? Maybe not. So that's kind of like where I put it at right now. I could see it being a little bit higher, maybe matching Kill Command, maybe an 80 spots. I could see that. Maybe I should just stick on this page where it shows more stuff and how it compares. Okay, so our next card is Bloated Python. 3 mana, 1/2. It's a beast. Death Rattle, summon a 4/4 hapless handler. So this crazy snake, this crazy 1/2 snake ate this 4/4. Um, I mean, a card that reminds me of this is like, you know, some of the egg cards, you know, like Nerubian Egg, a 0/4 or 0/2, sorry, a 0/2 for 2 that summons a 4/4. So this one's a 1/2 that summons a 4/4, but it costs 1 extra mana. Does that 1 extra mana make a big difference? Yeah, it probably does. I mean, it makes the card a lot more playable, right? So I think this card is actually really good. You get a ton of stats for this card. You get 5/6 worth of stats for over 2 bodies. If you compare this to like a Harvest Golem, I would take this. A 4/4 is super strong. Anyways, we have this as a 76, which means this is one of the better 3-drops. If you think about the 3-drops available at this rating, a generic spider tank is about a 68 or a 67. So it's in the above average range. So I would consider this a better card than a generic spider tank. Yeah, I like this card. It's a beast too in Hunter. Seems good. Twilight Summoner, right? Yep, I would consider this better than Twilight Summoner for sure. It's cheaper, it's beast. The 4/4 on turn 3 is actually pretty strong. Very strong for a turn 3, right? Alright, so our next card is called Overwhelm. It's a 1 mana spell. Deal 2 damage to a minion. So I mean it's pretty weak as just a spell, I guess. Deal 1 more damage for each beast you control. Looks like there's several ways to spam beasts, but we take this kind of at face value. It might be a 1 mana, it might be a Holy Smite. So I believe Holy Smite in Priest is somewhere in the high 70s, but and I think Hunter would be similar, would have a similar need for a card like Holy Smite, but maybe a little bit less than Priest. So also Arcane Shot is a 1 mana 2 damage card. 2 damage can go face. I think that's a 62. Or 61, I think. Yeah, 61. So we have so I put this slightly worse than Arcane Shot. I don't expect this to be more than 2 damage too often. But I still think it's okay. It can high roll definitely. Alright, our next card is Krolesk Bark Stripper. 4 mana 3/5, so it has generic stats for a 4-drop. It's a beast, which is good. Lots of good beasts right now. Spell Burst. Destroy a random enemy minion. Hey, it has Deadly Shot on a body. Seems pretty good. A 3/5 for 4 is not super good in this meta, so I don't consider the stats a huge premium. I don't consider the stats like a huge upside, but I think the spell burst is very strong. You chain this with the cheap spell with Hunter, and you instantly have a deadly shot out of nowhere. So I think this card is decent. I put this at a 73 to put that in perspective. A Yeti is a 66. I think Tazdingo is about a 65. So I have this higher than those cards for sure. So I do give the spell burst on this a decent premium over its baseline stats. I do like this card quite a bit. And you can see where it lines up with. 73 puts it against higher than Lion, similar explosive shot. Houndmaster, probably take it over Houndmaster to be honest. So yeah. Let's see here. Next card, I believe it's going to be a dual class legendary, so we'll have to talk about that later. So that's Hunter. So Hunter, just a better look at the cards here available. We'll have to go through a dual class later. But we're going through the classes right now. Okay, let's go through the next class here. Alright. Alright. So we're at Mage. Right now we have sorry, we'll do this setup. So we're at Mage right now. So we have Firebrand as the great card for Mage. So it's 3 mana, 3/4, great stats. So it has the good stats for Mage for it has good stats for a 3-drop. Spell burst, deal 4 damage randomly split among enemy minions. So it's minion only. So it's basically a Flame Waker that only targets minions. Oh, I missed Professor Slate. Oh, darn. Yep, I missed Professor Slate. Sorry, there he is. I didn't see it. The new tag is blended in with the orange. Alright, so Professor Slate, 3 mana, 3/4. Good stats for a 3-drop. Your spells are poisonous. I feel like there's some other card that had this kind of benefit or something along those lines, and it never really took off. I think this card's kind of okay, but I mean, it makes multi-shot, explosive shot really good. Like, explosive shot's gonna kill 3 minions. Shouldn't you go through a dual class since it's part of the class? I think I'm having a hard time looking for those cards here. I would have to do something. There's some kind of bug right now with this filter that I have that they can't there's some kind of bug with the dual class cards. They recognize them as neutral cards. Yeah. So obviously the obvious card is Rapid Fire. So okay. Anyway, so we're going on to Mage here. Mage Firebrand. No cards at the right side. Yeah, there's not a lot of cards at the not a lot of cards that are bad in this set. Anyway, so Firebrand is the new Flame Waker. I think it's better. Obviously the damage is minion only, so you can kind of control it really well. It only goes off once, so you got one shot with it. But I mean, there's no real downside to this card. It's a pretty easy, great card for me. It has a very relevant effect. Like I said, baseline Spire Tank is about 67. This card's an easy, great rating for me, so it's an 80. The next card is Lab Partner. It's a 1 mana 1/3, spell damage +1. Very good, cheap spell damage minion. Probably one of the best spell damage minions in terms of cost and stats efficiency. Baseline Diramol is somewhere around 60 for Mage. This card should be a lot better than a baseline Diramol. Even just to boost a big spell like Fireball or Flame Strike. So right now we have it at 73. I can see it being a bit lower because I don't think 1-drops are super impactful. But yeah, it's gonna be decent. Let's see. Our next card is Worm Reaver, so 5 mana 3/6. So you got Fen Creeper stats. Not the most impressive stat line. Spell Burst, summon 2 1/3 mana worms. So you get 2 extra small bodies. Not bad. I have it at 66. I think Fen Creeper at 63. I mean, Fen Creeper has taunt over generic 3/6. This one we're already giving a small bonus for 2 1/3s. How good is 2 extra 1/3s? Probably okay. I think I maybe underscore this a little bit. Probably closer to 70, but they're the 2-drop. Yeah, they're the 2-drop mana worms. Yep. Formerly 1-drops. But I can see this card being a bit better. I don't know. It didn't impress me that much when I saw it today. Dollar in Crusader is like a 78 or something. Would I take a Dollar in Crusader over this? They're not 1/3, they're mana worms? What? Alright, next card is Cram Session. 2 mana draw 1, improved by spell damage. So obviously they have a theme with Mage going into the spell damage stuff. maybe on average you get one extra card. Arcane Intellect is a 62. I put it at about Arcane Intellect levels. Occasionally you're going to have to use this for one card. Sometimes you might get two cards for it. I'm not entirely convinced that you're going to get three cards for 2 mana very often. Maybe if you play this after playing Azure Explorer. But generally I put it around Arcane Intellect. Maybe it's a bit low. I could probably increase it a little bit. But I have it at 62. It could be a 65. Alright guys, next card is Combustion. Combustion, 3 mana, deal 4 damage to a minion. Any excess damage, both neighbors. Any excess damages both neighbors. Okay, so I think this is a good card. It's kind of like Fireball. What do you guys think about this card? I initially had this really high, and then I dropped it quite a bit. But I think it's because 4 damage is not as impactful as 8 damage from rolling Fireball. Yeah, that's why I think like this card might be a bit low. I think it's a bit low. I think I'm just gonna boost it up here. It's a bit low. I put it at Intellect, but I feel like it's probably gonna draw 2 or 3 pretty often. It's a Shadow Bolt. Good with the Morog. I think Spell Burst is gonna be relevant. I think the shards are not gonna be relevant. But I think Combustion is pretty good. I mean, it's a small AoE or it's a Shadow Bolt. 88 might be too high for it. Rolling Fireball, I think it's 104. Yeah, it deals excess too. So for example, if you play this on a 3 cost minion, if you play this on a 3 health minion in the middle, it deals 1 to both sides, right? That's what I'm reading. Just want to be sure. Because initially I thought it was the same as rolling Fireball. But I think this card is pretty cool. Yeah, it's like a mini meteor-ish. Obviously not as good. But I like it. I think it's good. Helps the early game. Good with spell damage? Oh, yeah, that's true. Legendary, Mozaki. Not a huge fan of this legendary. 5 mana, 3/8. After you cast a spell, gain +1 spell damage. So the stats are decent. The stats are pretty defensive for the mana cost. So I think the baseline stat, the value for this is about 58. It's about 58 or something. I don't give much stock to the spell damage increase, but maybe I can give it a little bit more of a bonus. Right now 60, I mean it doesn't compete with much at 60. Like a 5 mana 5/5 is about 55 points with no ability. 3/8 is insane. I don't think 3/8 is that good. It doesn't trade well with a lot of things. Yeah, maybe I'm a bit low on it. I mean, I can definitely go up on this. I'm just not too huge on this card. Like we have a card called Azerite Elemental. Azerite Elemental is a 5 mana 2/7 version of this card. So the stats are a bit worse, but it increases +2 spell damage every turn, so you don't have to do anything and it increases spell damage. So I don't know. I don't know how relevant spell damage is going to be for Mage. But I think this is fair. It's a decent start. Alright, moving on. Let's go to Paladin. Paladin's got some incredible cards. Alright. First card for Paladin. First day of school. 0 mana, add 2 random 1-cost minions to your hand. Instantly, this card reminds me of Firefly. So Firefly was a 1-mana 1/2 battle cry. Put a 1/2 in your hand. So, I mean, this card in my mind is better than Firefly, because then you get the you can get battle cry 1-drops. And I mean, it's a cheap spell for any kind of spell burst shenanigans. Yeah, of course. Like, so I wanted to say, like, these scores are all like very rough. Like, I haven't really done like full research, and also a lot of these things we'll have to figure out after the expansion, how the offering bonus is, like how frequent some of these cards are. Obviously, I think spell burst is going to be very relevant in the meta. I don't think the shard mechanic is going to be very relevant. There's not enough shard generators, but the cards that offer the shards are good by itself, so you're going to pick it anyways. But a lot of these things, it requires revision, right? So like, it's not like the whole like Hearthreina scores, like basically it's a constantly like updating thing. It doesn't, like, you just don't set it and then walk away. So it's constantly updating. We're constantly monitoring like stats and stuff to make sure that the scores are like as accurate as we feel like comfortable with. Yeah, so basically when the Dragon Synergy cards came, we weren't sure how often dragons were coming. I think what we I forgot who did the calculation, but someone calculated like it was like roughly 5. We would see roughly 5 dragons per draft, but then we didn't factor in that the dragons would be discovered, so you could have extra dragons hanging around. So it's way more than 5. So I don't know. It just ended up being yeah, all the dragons were underrated. Okay, so first day of school. It's good. Firefly is rated at 80, so we have it at 83, or I have it at 83, so it's slightly better than Firefly in my opinion. Do you monitor Hearthreina? Yes, I do. I currently volunteer and contribute to Hearthreina for their scores and stuff, so these scores will go onto their system when it's live, but we'll have to do revision first and go over some of them before we do it. Yeah. Judicious Junior, 6 mana 4/9 lifesteal. The stats are there. Distribution's a little bit weak. Like if this was a 5/8, distribution would be a lot better, but 4/9 is kind of a punching bag at 6 mana. Lifesteal is relevant, I guess, because this is going to be really hard to kill off with 1 minion at this mana range. So it's going to heal probably at least twice. I have it at 69. I have it 1 point higher than a Sunwalker. Sunwalker is 68. So I think this card is decent. I mean, it's huge enough that it's always going to heal you. And it's going to take at least 2 hits from most things, actually. Is that the first 6 mana 4/9 card? No, there's another one, the Dragon. But yeah, this is a good card. I think it's a good card. I mean, it's nothing fancy, but I think it's a decent card. Alright, so moving on. So Paladin's next card. This is one of their best cards. Blessing of Authority. 5 mana spell. Give a minion +8/+8. It can't attack heroes this turn. That is freaking unbelievable, in my opinion. It's unbelievable. It's 2 Blessing of Kings on 1 for 1 extra mana. You can't go face with it, but honestly, Paladin likes to trade anyways. You probably trade with the Blessing of Kings 4 out of 5 times you play it. So this card, you probably trade with it. And then you're left with a humongous threat. So this card's pretty good. I put it at 94. That's higher than cards like Pickrock, Evasive Worm. It's higher than Faceless Corruptor in Paladin, which is a really strong card. True Silver Champion's 100. Librum of Justice is 100. Murloc Weapon's 109 or something. So I mean, it's definitely up there in conversation with some of the best cards in Paladin. As you can see, like Alder Peacekeeper's at 100, Librum's 102, True Silver's 101. So it's in that conversation. Yeah, so it's good. How good? I don't know. I mean, it's good. I can't see it being much worse than this. I can't see it being like Blessing of Kings. It's to me, it's way better than Blessing of Kings and way better than Pharaoh's Blessing. So yeah, it's a really strong card. Next card, 3 mana 4/2, Divine Shield, Spell Burst. Gain Divine Shield. Thanks, Bruce. 93 points. 93.3 drop. I mean, absolutely insane 3 drop. It's a 4/2 twice on turn 3, and it has the refresh ability. It doesn't have initiative. It's just a 3 drop, but it's a hell of a 3 drop. So I got it at 93. I don't think there's another 3 drop at this level. 93 is ahead of Shotbot. I don't know. Yeah, there's not a lot of 3 drops that will be at this level, so it's really, really strong. Maybe one of the best stat only 3 drops. Imprisoned Observer, yeah. Imprisoned Observer is around 95. Alright, moving on. Argent Braggart, 2 mana, 1/1. Gain attack and health to match the highest in the battlefield. This card is also absolutely bonkers. This card is absolutely bonkers. It's an epic, we won't see it very often, but it's absolutely off the rails. I have put it at 100, it probably should be higher. But it takes the highest attack and health, so it could be on 2 separate minions. So if you play it, if the guy is a tyrant, and like a cursed vagrant, you have a 7/10 for 2 mana. You know what I mean? It's just absolutely ridiculous. The problem with this card is that it's purely stats. It doesn't have initiative, right? Like you can't do anything with it the turn you play it unless you have something else to do something with it. So no, it takes the separate. It takes the highest of both on the battlefield. It's not a 2 mana faceless manipulator stat. It's not a 2 mana stat only faceless manipulator. It takes the best of both, and it could be from both sides of the board. It's insane. But like I said, it's just a pile of stats for 2 mana. But for 2 mana, it's a huge pile of stats. So it's a great card. I have it at 100. I think it might even be higher than 100. Would I take this over the Murloc weapon? I think the Murloc weapons, yeah, 115. I don't know if I would. I think the Murloc weapon might be better. But yeah, this card is really strong. Alright. Paladin got some really good cards. I think every class got really good cards. There's just no bad cards in this set, really. Alright, Priest. I think Priest got the highest, for me, Priest was the highest common rated card. And it's so simple. It's so simple, guys. Dracanic Studies. Discover a dragon. The next one you play costs 1 less. Wow, who would have thought? Discovering a dragon is so freaking good. Oh, Miss Turalon. Really? Oh, did I miss Turalon? Oh, dang. I was like, where's Paladin's Legendary? Oh crap, where is Turalon? He's not here. Okay. If I were to rate Turalon... Alright, if I were to rate Turalon, this guy. If I were to rate him, I'd probably put him at somewhere around 90. He's a really good card, but he's super slow. 8 mana, you basically consider him an 8 mana 3/9 that kills a minion. Like 8 mana 3/9 that kills a minion, he can attack. So you get 12 stats for 8 plus a situational assassinate. He's good, but he's really expensive, and he will not likely live one turn if your opponent can help it. But if he does live, he basically just controls the board for you. So. Draconic Lackey? Oh, it'd be really high. It'd be like 100. Actually, maybe not 100. It'll probably be around this one. Because then this card, sorry, where am I? I'm on Priest, sorry. Draconic Studies it's basically a 0 mana dragon discover, right? Whereas the Lackey, you're paying 1 mana for a 1/1. So I think both cards are kind of similar. The 1/1 might be better in some spots, but I mean, this card is basically free, so it's about the same. 88. You get to discover a dragon. Some dragons are insane. A priest has access to Murzon. They have access to Skeletal Dragon. Murzon, Skeletal Dragon are some of the 2 best dragons in the whole game. So, Draconic Studies is, I think, the highest rated common card in the set for me personally. Discover a Dragon, like, it's just simple, but it's really strong. So next card is a 1 mana 1/4. The highest stats for a 1-drop ever without any drawback, and it's for Priest. I mean, not much to say about it. It's good, I guess. It's pretty high health, and I mean, at least it'll trade fairly into a 2/2, a 1 mana 2/2, or a 3/2. So, I mean, it's not bad. I have it at 73. Diramol is a 61. So, 73 is a pretty hefty premium for 1 HP, but 1 HP on a 1-cost minion extra, 1 extra stat on a 1-cost minion is quite a lot. So, I think it's fine. I think this meta might not be great for 1-drops, but Priest did get an extra card that helps their early game, so. And here it is. Power Word Feast. Shit, this card is pretty good. This card is pretty good. 2 mana, give a minion +2/+2, restore it to full health at the end of this turn. This card is pretty crazy. If you can play this, get a trade, and have your guy live, oh my god, it's so crazy. So crazy. Yeah, I mentioned that. I mentioned we should add another column. Basically cards that exceed 100, because cards are getting better and better over time. The moving scale is just shifting more and more, so. But I mentioned it, it's not up to me. How do you beat that shit? No, it just heals for 1 turn, I think. Oh, actually, no, it's reoccurring. Yeah, this is reoccurring. Yeah, it's pretty bonkers. This card is bonkers. 88 might be too low for it. But I have it at 88. I mean, it's a buff card in Priest. It's one of the better buff cards. Bottom right, yeah. It can't be reoccurring. Isn't it reoccurring? Restore it to full health at the end of this turn. Oh, just one turn. Sorry, 1 turn. Okay, it's not reoccurring. It's not reoccurring. No, it's not reoccurring. 1 turn only. I need to read. 1 turn only. 1 turn only. It doesn't have the gargoyle effect. 1 turn only. Yeah, oh, there's a period. Yes, that's right. It's 1 turn only. Everyone relax. It's 1 turn only. Okay, we're good. Moving on. Initiation. 6 mana, initiation. Deal 4 damage to minion. If it kills it, summon a new copy. So we've seen a card like this. It's called Holy Smite back in the day. Holy Smite was a 5 mana, deal 4 damage. If it kills it, you get a copy of it in your hand. So this, you pay 1 extra, you summon it. I think that's a pretty good deal. Holy Water was performing about where we put it. So statistics for that card, I think it was rated like 67 or 68. So I have this at a decent premium over it. I have it at 77. I think it's decent. It's a bit expensive, but if you factor in that you're killing something and you're putting something on the board, it's pretty good. And also, like, if you know, weaken something really good, and then you play this on that big minion, like an 8 drop, and then you get an 8 drop on your side, that's insane. Yeah, exactly. This card could be really insane, but it's super situational. That's why it's not extremely high. 77 is solid, but it's not extremely high. Alright, so off to the epics. Cabal, Acolyte. I have this in the good category. I think it's decent. It has Stegadon stats, so 4 mana, 2/6 taunt. So Stegadon stats, spell bursts. You gain control of gain control of an enemy minion with 2 or less attack. So it has the Cabal Shadow Priest ability. And Cabal Shadow Priest is insanely strong. Like, it's 105 on Hearts Arena. It might be a little bit high right now. Just because, like, there's not a huge amount of 2 or less minions, I think, to steal that are super high value. Yeah, I could see Initiation being better. Yeah. The thing is, it's 6. It costs 6 and it's super situational, right? But it could be insane. The tempo swing from this card could be definitely insane. Same thing with this card. Like, it can be good, but the spell burst for priest, a lot of priest spells are situational, right? So you kind of just can't throw a spell into thin air to try to steal a minion. So I'm a little bit hesitant on this card, but I think it's going to be good overall. 70, like I said, Yeti is like a 67, 66 in priest, so that's kind of like where we're looking at. I got it slightly better than a Yeti. The upside is there. Am I missing a legendary? What legendary am I missing? Some cards are not. Oh, actually, no, I have it. Hold on. Here it is. Mind Render Elucia. This card's pretty interesting. Will Raider be that good as it is now? Because now there are many 6 health 4 drops. Yeah. There's actually, I noticed that too. A lot of 6 health minions, and some of the minions are even higher than that. Which bot do you use? It's Streamlabs. Streamlabs. I think you can edit. Yeah, you should have permission. Kai's here if you don't have permission. I think Kai can give it to you. This card is cheap enough that it actually does something. For example, if this is your 2-drop, you can play this on turn 2, steal your opponent's hand, and then play something on turn 3 from his hand when you have a hand full of big stuff and he can't play anything. So I can see this card having a bunch of different uses. And of course, you can play it on. Of course, you can do stuff in the late game too, right? Where you take their hand, exhaust their resources, and then you swap the hands back. But it's situational in that you need to have like a baddish hand for them as well. You have to use the cards right away. Exactly, you do. So I can see this working in the early game, where you have a bad curve, you take their hand, you play their curve cards right away and give them a bad hand so they can't curve out. That's one way to use it. The other way, use it in the late game, exhaust their resources. But your hand needs to be kind of bad too. I don't know. I mean, it's a different level of disruption, and I think for a 2-drop, it does a lot. It does a lot for a 2-drop. Oh, on your turn. Yeah, okay. So I can't see that then. Okay, so you have to do it like turn 5 or something, or turn 4. Yeah. Okay, so you have to do it that way. So you have to do it and then use it. But I think it's still pretty good. I think it's still pretty good because you get the information, he gets your information. I don't know. I still see some upside with this card. Even though it's only 2 mana, that's kind of the thing that has it going for it, right? Maybe 68 is too high. River Krolesk for reference is like 57. Yeah, it could be worse. I was thinking that we could steal and use it the turn after. So again, like a bit of reading comprehension. My issue with reading. This card might be lower actually. We'll go 58. I think I might take a shot with this over a River Krolesk in this meta though. Yeah. I changed my score. I dropped it to 58 for now. I have to revise it later though. Alright, moving on. Let's go to Rogue. See, this is good. Everyone's teaching me how to read. Alright. Rogue actually didn't get that many good cards, I think. Happen here. Okay. Valpyra Toxfin, 3 mana, 3/3. Your weapon gets +2 attack. So it's deadly poison attached to a 3/3 body. It's pretty good. Like on turn 3, if you dagger on 2, you instantly have a deadly poison and a 3/3. So we've seen cards like this with Goblin Auto Barber. Goblin Auto Barber was 2 mana 3/2 that gives your weapon +1 attack. So this card is probably a little bit worse than Goblin Auto Barber because Barber was only 2 mana where this is 3. And the stats are a little bit worse for its mana cost. Oh, it's not a battle cry. Oh my god, the reading. Persistent effect. May or may not be worse. That may or may not be worse, actually. Okay, so it's a persistent effect. It's not a battle cry. But it may or may not be worse. Because if this thing dies, you lose a buff. Well, I guess it's similar to like Spiteful Smith's like ability when it's injured, right? Yeah, so you can remove this and then you remove the buff. Does it change the way I look at this card though? I still think it's pretty good. Yeah, I still think it's pretty good. I probably prefer it to be a battle cry, to be honest. 3/3 is not super strong. I think this card's a little bit high. I would take this over a generic 3/4, like 3 mana Spire Tank. Yeah. You still have to set it up though. I think I'd take this card over a generic Spire Tank though. That's true. You could have more than one. That's true. I think I'm okay with it. 73. I still think it's a good card. This card's interesting. Plagiarize. At the end of your 2 mana secret, so it's a new secret. So Rogue has 4 secrets now. At the end of your turn, at the end of your opponent's turn, add a copy of the cards they play to your hand. So it's better in the late game, obviously. Yeah, if it was a 2/5, yeah. I think this card's kind of interesting. Usually, like, if Rogue plays a secret, usually your opponent doesn't play anything big into it, so they usually play something small to test for poison. So then this card probably gets at least 2 cards, so that's kind of where I'm putting it at. It's going to get at least 2 cards, potentially more. Yeah, I mean, I have it better in Dirty Tricks. I don't really like Dirty Tricks, but Plagiarize could be better than Dirty Tricks. Maybe 67 too high for this card. It is kind of situational. In the early game, it's worse than Dirty Tricks. Does it trigger if you don't play any cards? Oh, it does trigger. At the end of your opponent's turn. Oh, it does trigger if your opponent plays no cards. Is Generation or Draw better in Arena? I think Generation is better. It depends. If it's discovered, then it's gonna be better than most of your draws. But I guess discover what? Generally, I prefer discover. 2 mana make them pass is still pretty good. I think this card might be high, because then it doesn't put it down here just to be more reasonable. Because I think Dirty Tricks can be still okay. Should be a bit higher, I think. Dirty Tricks. But I have to look into this a little bit more. Okay. Actually, yeah, this card. Yeah, I'll look into that card. Alright. Shifty Sophomore. Shifty Sophomore. So it's a rare, it's a 4 mana 4/4. It has stealth, which is good. It's a permanent stealth, not like the mech. There's a mech before that had stealth for 1 turn. So this one has permanent stealth. Not permanent stealth, sorry. It has stealth until it reveals itself. Stealth. Normal stealth. Not like the mech. Sorry. There was a mech before, a 4 mana 4/4 mech. But, so this one has stealth. Spell burst, add a combo card to your hand. So I mean, you could theoretically keep this in stealth mode until you play a spell to get a combo card. Add a miscreant, yeah. Add a miscreant, kidnapper, SI7, eviscerate. Cold-blooded. What else is there? Oh, the weapon, scimitar, Edwin, Defias, Headcrack, yeah. Perditions, yeah. Some decent cards, yeah. I have it as a 4 mana. I have it as 72. I mean, just baseline, it's already way stronger than Yeti. I think it might be better than this. Just because like 4 mana 4/4 stealth is probably better than Yeti most of the time. So I think I'm gonna go up on this. I like this card quite a bit. Go up on it a little bit. Okay, Sharpening Sword. So this card, 3 mana 1/4. It's a weapon for rogue. After your hero attacks, gain +1 attack. I assume that your first attack is a 1 attack. Your second attack is a 2 attack. Your third attack is a 3 and then 4. That's the way I'm assuming it. So that gives you 10 damage over 4 turns with this card. That's a decent amount of damage for 3 mana, but it's over 4 turns. It benefits from spell weapon buffs, obviously. Can you play a 3 mana 1 attack weapon? That's pretty tough, right? I have it at 64. Perdition's Blade, I think, is at 66, I think. Where's Perdition's Blade? Oh, 62. Yeah, it probably should be worse than Perdition's Blade. It should be worse than Scimitar, too. You can immediately turn it? Yeah, but you attack with it first. So your first attack's only 1 damage. I think this should be worse than Perdition's Blade. Should be. Yeah, I'm gonna put it here for now. Yeah, it's too slow. It should be worse, I think. Garbo? Maybe. Alright, moving on. Secret Passage. I actually really like this card. I think it's really solid. It's a 1 mana, replace your hand with 5 cards from your deck. Swap back next turn. So it's like a tracking, kind of, without discarding your cards. It's kind of like Evocation-ish, except you use cards from your deck instead of your hand. instead of out of nowhere. I mean, if you have no cards in your hand, does it give you 5? Yes, it does. So it's a 1 mana draw 5, use the cards right away kind of card. So I'm not sure about the sword. I mean, it does a bit. I liked it initially, but I think I liked it less than Perdition's Blade. I think Secret Passage is quite strong. I have it at 80. Solarium is a 79 in Warlock. Evocation's an 87 in Mage. So those are similar cards, but I think this card's probably better. Like, I would probably put it like somewhere here. It's better than Solarium. It's better than Tracking. Nice out of jail card. Yeah, I like this card. I think it's good. Yeah, it's basically a dig for lethal or heal or removal or whatever you need. That's about it. And it's for 1 mana. It's such a small investment. The awkward thing about this card is that if you needed to play something from your hand in a specific order, like if you had like Kidnapper in your opening hand, but you needed something to combo it with, like then you can't play Secret Passage and then play your Kidnapper. So there is something like some weird stuff. Yeah, some weird stuff like that. So, but anyways, I mean it's a super good card. Rogue's Legendary. It's pretty weak in my opinion. Infiltrator Lillian, 4 mana, 4/2 stealth. I mean, it's Jungle Panther stats for 4 mana. Death Rattle, summon a 4/2 that attacks a random enemy. So the 4/2 that comes out doesn't have stealth and it attacks right away. I don't think it's that great. I mean, sometimes the 4/2 kills the guy, like, you know, it's a little bit of AoE protection. Like, Cursed Disciple is a 4 mana 5/1, Death Rattle, summon a 5/1. And that card is like a 66 or a 67. So, I mean, I have Lillian at 65. I think it's slightly worse because of the random aspect. It's a 4 mana 8/4. Yeah, but the randomness of the second attack is not very good. And the initial body is only worth the Jungle Panther. It's not worth that much. I don't know. Like, it starts with stealth. Yeah, you're paying 4 mana for a Jungle Panther that deals 4 damage random. If the 4 damage runs into a minion and just dies for no reason, then I mean it just dealt 4 random damage. It's interesting, but I don't think it's as good as like Cursed Disciple, for example. But yeah, I could be wrong. I mean, it could be better, but I don't think it's that much better or worse than where I have it. Compared to the 4/2 Stealth Reborn thing, yeah, that costs 5 mana, so this costs 4 mana. But the second body doesn't have stealth, and it random attacks, which could be a good thing, I guess, right? But maybe not. Alright, moving on, Shaman. Shaman didn't get that many great cards, I think. They got some. Rune Dagger, 2 mana 1/3 weapon. After your hero attacks, gain +1 spell damage this turn. So obviously filling in with the spell damage theme. A ping is obviously very good for a non-ping class. So I have this in the high 60s. It's similar to how Paladin works with Light's Justice. Light's Justice in the high 60s or 70s or low 70s. Non-ping classes benefit from pings. Makes them a lot better. Spell damage obviously is going to be relevant. I can see this being a bit higher, just depending on the deck and the spell damage, how often the spell damage stuff shows up. Yeah, I put Tidal Wave a little bit low. I don't know. I feel like this card is super expensive. Like, it's a full heal. It's a full heal most of the time for 8. But it's super expensive for what it does, and it's a double-sided effect too. I have it at 67, which is like kind of just above average. It's good. Lightning Storm is somewhere here, 87. So Lightning Storm's at 87 versus Tidal Wave 67. I don't know. I don't think it's that good. Personally, these are my first impression ratings, and these are not fully reviewed, but I don't think it's that good. Could be wrong, right? I have this itch on my nose. Trying to shake it, guys. Oh shit. You like Tidal Wave? I don't know, man. I don't see it. I think it's too expensive. It's too expensive. It's double-sided. Yes, you full heal, but it's, I mean, you know, you gain 3 health for every minion on the board, right? Yeah, I don't like this card that much, but I could see it being okay. Hence, I put it in the above average, so I can see it being okay. Next card, Molten Blast. 3 mana, deal 2 damage, so it can go face. So actually that's pretty relevant, which makes this card pretty good. Summon that many 1/1 elementals. So this card, it benefits from spell damage, which actually increases the power of this card quite a bit, based on the amount of emphasis on spell damage in this set. So if you get 3 1/1s and 3 damage from this, like, this card is it's basically Serpentine Portal without overload. But as is, it's like, it's pretty, like, it's super solid. I mean, I have it at 82. It's slightly worse than like Fireplume Phoenix. Phoenix is a 3/3 body, right? For 1 extra mana, so you get an extra body, extra 1/1. But I think in a 3/3 is better than 3 1/1s, I think. Yeah, 3 damage, 3 1/1s, yeah. And the fact that it can go face is pretty relevant too. I mean, you can always target face. Like, I compared this to like Implosion. Implosion is like the 4 mana, deal 2 to 4 damage, summon that many imps. That card was really insane, but that card could only target minions, so this card has a bit more flexibility. Like, it can go face. So, and you can also think of this as like a bees. You know, bees that hit a 2 health minion. So it's kind of similar to that. I think this card is really good. Diligent Note Taker. I know a lot of people like this card, but I mean, it's good. 2 mana, 2/3. Baseline stats for a River Croc, about 56, 57. I have it at 67, which is a decent premium for its upside. You play this, and then you play Lightning Storm, you get an extra Lightning Storm. Play this, you play, I don't know, Eye of the Storm, you get another Eye of the Storm. There's no real drawback to this card, there's only pure upside. So, I mean, it's good. How good? It's probably not going to be like a 90 card, so maybe a couple points higher, but I think it's fine. I think it's a nice card. Tidal Wave, yeah, sure. Okay. Totem Goliath. Who likes this card? Somebody loved this card. Somebody loved this card. 5 mana, 4/5. So it's really weak stats for its mana cost. It doesn't even have taunt. Death Rattle, summon all 4 basic totems. Overload 2. I don't like this card. I think the stats are weak for its mana cost. The overload is too much for its upside, which is the totems. And I think a card that overloads like this, it needs to front load its power, you know what I mean? Instead of having its power come afterwards, which may or may not come, and it's debatable whether it's actually powerful. I don't think it's that good. I don't think this card is that good. I put it at a 60, which is in to put it relatively speaking, like a 5 mana 5/5 is a 55. So I put this higher than a 5 mana 5/5, and I feel like that's probably being generous. I I'm not huge on on this card, but I could see it being a bit lower for sure. Yeah, I can see it being a bit lower. I'm gonna drop it. We'll start at 55 for this card, and then see what happens. I'm not a huge fan of this card. I thought there was gonna be more totem stuff, but there's not that many totem stuff. All right, let's go to the legendary Instructor Fireheart, 3/3, 3 mana 3/3. Battlecry, discover a spell that costs 1 or more, so no 0-cost spells, so no mutate, no totem health stuff. If you play it this turn, repeat this effect. So it doesn't give you like 1 cost. Initially I thought it was like 1 cost, and then 2 cost, and then 3 cost, and then 4 cost. So that's what I thought, but it's not. So it gives you it lets you discover a spell of various cost. So if you play it the turn that you play this, you get another discover, which is really good. I think a card like this is really strong for Shaman, because Shaman doesn't have a lot of ways to discover value. Like they have Marsh Spawn, but that's a situational discover. And outside of that, they don't really have too many ways to generate value, right? Or even draw cards. They don't even have that many ways to draw cards. So I think this legendary is very strong. It fills a very niche need for the class. And you can obviously get a lot of shit from this card. I put it at 91, which is on par with Anexia. It's on par with Maeve for Shaman. They do different things, obviously. So Hagatha I got 93, so I put it higher than Bandersmosh, Nethog. Lurker from Below is the best legendary, so I have it somewhere here. I think it's about right. Siamat would be about 107, so I wouldn't take this over Siamat, but it's a very strong legendary. Yes, it just keeps going. So, someone said you can just lightning bolt the guy for 21. It's gonna happen. Someone's gonna get bolted for 21. Would a 3 mana discover 1 spell be worth like an 80? A bonus of 1/1. 11 seems fair for the extra discover. Yes, that's what I think. Yeah, so I think it's solid. I want to see someone get bolted for 21. That would make it on Trollden for sure. Alright, moving on. Very strong legendary. We're at Warlock. Alright. School Spirits. 3 mana, deal 2 damage to all minions. Shuffle 2 fragments into your deck. So, first glance, it's a Volcanic Potion with upside. Very reasonable card. I think Volcanic Potion is like mid 70 for Mage. I have this set at 80, which is probably conservative. Since Warlock probably wants the AoE a little bit more in Mage, I feel. Especially without the early game ping, it's probably more important for Warlock. But also the fragments are a nice upside. It's going to generate the fragments for any kind of fragment shenanigans for deck building. And also healing is relevant for Warlock, so I mean it's a good card, solid. Next card we have Demonic Studies. So Warlock gets their own Discover Demon card, costs 1 less. How bad does this make Into the Void look? Where's that card? Oh, here's it. Call of the Void. Add a random demon to your hand. How bad does this look versus this card? Demonic Studies. I have this at 75. There's some really good demons, but there's also some duds, and there's also demons that don't offer immediate help, like with Dormant and stuff like that. And I think there's too many of those types of demons that don't offer immediate help that probably drag this card down a little bit. But I think this card's obviously, very good, has some flexibility. Call the Void can get other class demons. Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. Shadowlight Scholar, 3 mana 3/4, so Spider Tank stats. I have this at 75. I did penalize the, obviously with the effect, it's very strong. It's a 3 mana Fire Elemental, but I think I penalized the fragments because I don't see this mechanic being very prominent in the arena. I don't think there's enough that people are going to be drafting a hell of a lot of it to make it work, but I could be wrong. Also, with the ability like dealing 3 damage, you generally want to save this card to maximize its effect, but you never know when the draw RNG for the fragments is going to mess you up. So any given turn, you could plan for the 3 damage and then draw the fragment, and then lose that option to play the 3 damage. So I'm penalizing the fragments a little bit based on these kind of assumptions that I'm making right now. But a 75 is a nice bonus over a generic Spire Tank. Spire Tank is a 67, 68, so I give it a nice little bonus. One of the worst cards in the set, Bone Web Egg, 2 mana 0/2, Death Rattle, summon 2/1 spiders. If you discard this, trigger its Death Rattle. Nerubian Egg is a 0 mana. Sorry, it's a 2 mana 0/2, summon a 4/4, and I think that was rated about a 50. And it performed pretty well too. This card will work with Evil Genius, so that's kind of the only thing that has it going for it. There is, obviously some discard synergy, but this is going to be a random discard. Very often, it's not going to be the high card discard from like the 5/5 Rush minion. So I mean, I have it at 38. I consider it a bad card. I would never draft this willingly. Yeah, that's about it. I don't like this card. I would avoid it. Epics, Void Drinker, 5 mana 4/5 taunt. The stats are playable by itself, but I mean, I'd probably put this at slightly about the same as a 5/5. So I give it a pretty nice bonus, just for the upside because it's a 5 mana Earth Elemental. If you get the shards off, I think a turn 5 card, you might have a better chance of putting fragments in your deck, so this card might actually get a chance to go off on turn 5. It might be too high actually at 73, but I did penalize it because I don't feel that the shard mechanic would be around that much. So I think 73 I think is about as high as I want to go with it. It could be lower, to be honest. 73, I mean, if you consider the neutral cards like Dark Iron Dwarf would be like a 75, 76. Silverhand Knight is a 68 for Warlock. So right now I have it at 73, so I would pick this over a Silverhand Knight. Maybe, you know what I mean? Like it might be kind of close, to be honest. Like I'm not entirely sure I would. Alright, Legendaries. Arch, Witch, Willow. 9 mana, it's a big legendary. 7/7. Summon a random demon from your hand and deck. It doesn't need much to be decent. That's the thing. If it pulls like a flame imp and like a scrap imp from your hand, like it's you're playing like an 11 mana card for 9. 11, 12 mana card for 9. It's not going to be insane, but I mean it's decent. I have it at 68. 68 is like, it's decent. But if you pull like a 6/6 and if you pull a 6/6 and something else like huge from wherever, like this card's just going to be like a demon version of like Alexstrasza, right? So the ceiling is quite high, but the low can be low. But basically, when I was grading this card, I assumed that it's going to pull one minion from the deck with relative consistency. And the demon may or may not be dormant, which actually hurts it as well. Like if it just pulls like a Dread Inferno at 6/6, so a 7/7 and a 6/6, you have like close to a Nexia stats over 2 bodies, which is a pretty high roll, but you never know if you're going to pull like a dormant demon, which really hurts you too. Yeah, that's true. There's Discover cards, so you can set this up. Yep. There's some synergies with this card. I can see it being better. Like the potential is there. The potential is like active Dragon Queen Alexstrasza, but the low roll is a 9 mana 7/7 with the dormant demon. Like that's the low roll, right? Or a 0/1 or whatever 1/1 demon. I don't know, whatever demon. But there's definitely some low rolls for this, so it could be probably higher than this. Alright, but I think generally Warlock didn't get that great of a set. They have Shard synergy, but that's about it. I guess they really banked on Warlock getting doing well with the Shard synergy. But if they don't do the Shard synergy, like their cards are very average, not very good. Alright, let's move to Warrior. Warrior Athletic Studies. I like this card. 1 mana, discover a rush minion. Your next one costs 1 less. So most of the rush minions are pretty good. They have Brute, they have Mummy, they have Dig Day, they have Rusteed, obviously. Evasive Worm's very good. Gyrocopter can be good. So there's, obviously some very good rush minions for Warrior. It's very good, and it has initiative, so you're digging for an answer. So it's definitely a very good card. You don't lose tempo because it costs 1 less, so you're basically just looking for an answer for free. So I like this card. I think it's good. 78 is okay. I think I see it being higher. Sky Raider is probably the closest comparison, 1 mana versus 1 mana. I mean, this card can probably be 80, and I'd be happy with it. I like the card. I like Rush. Yeah, and there's some really good Rush minions, so... Next card, Information. Information, so it's a 2 mana. What bad rush minions are there? I can't really think of any, yeah. Yeah, I can't think of any. Oh, the broomstick is nuts. The broomstick is nuts. I love that card. Information for 2 mana. Add 2 random taunt minions to your hand. That's really good. Taunt minions inherently have value. And you get 2 of them for 2 mana. It's a good deal. It's not as good as Dragon Roar, but it's a good deal. Yeah, but it's a Discover though. The Discover makes the Discover will lower the variance on getting bad rush minions. So you get 3 choices. If you need it right away, don't take the dormant one. But Information, solid draw card, solid value generator for Warrior. Alright, big bad Troublemaker. This card is the best card in the set based on my own rating. I put it at 130. 130 puts it at the identical score as Coilfang Warlord. Personally, I think it's better than Coilfang Warlord, but yeah, we'll see. It's just insane. You play this on an empty board, you basically win. You play this, if you're behind, you probably catch up. It's insane. Yeah, it's better than Tyrant for sure. Better than Tyrant. So 8 mana win the game. Yep. It's better than Tyrant. It's better than Tyrant. In my opinion, it's better than Tyrant. Because Tyrant on an empty board just sucks. Tyrant against one minion also sucks. So Super Collider I think was rated like 122 or 121. But that score is very outdated. So you have to adjust scores from old cards when they rotate into playability. So those scores are outdated. I wouldn't use those scores. They all get adjusted when they rotate into availability. But yeah, this is the best card in the set based on my rating, or in Hearth Arena at least. So I don't think too many people would disagree. This happens every turn, yes. It's a reoccurring effect. Yeah, it's on par with the pre-nerf Priestess, but I think it's stronger because the bodies stay behind. Yes, this will be on YouTube. The next card is Reaper's Scythe. 4 mana 4/2 weapon, so good stats. Spell Burst. Give it Cleave. Oh my god. This card is fucking nuts. This card is nuts. Like, this card can be nuts, but it needs to spell. The problem with Warrior is that some of their spells kind of suck, and then, you know, some of their cards are super situational and you can't play them. But I think lately Warrior's been getting a lot of cheap value spells that makes this card a lot better. I think at 87, I think it might be low for this card. I think this card can be a bit higher. I think it's really strong. Actually, I'm going to bump it up right now. I think it can be really good. The cleave damage is insanely strong, especially if you even threaten your opponent with the ability of this card. Like, your opponent will try to play around it. You know what I mean? Like, even because you don't know when it's coming. You don't know when the spell burst is coming. So, yeah. Broad to cleave. Yeah, actually it might even be higher than this. I'm going to go up a little bit more. I like this card. I think the cleave is very influential. It controls the board like crazy. And even just the threat of it is just insane. Alright, moving on. Playmaker. A lot of people like this card. I think it's good. I think it's a good card. Stats are playable on turn 3. There's a lot of rush minions for this card. And the fact that it summons 2 of them can be very insane. Imagine getting, like, I don't know, another evasive worm. Oh my god, right? You know what I mean? Or Mummy. Mummy is the obvious one. How about Kargoth? It's like the prime, right? Like, it's just insane. Like, you can do a lot of stuff with this card. And it's reoccurring. It's a reoccurring effect, so it's as long as this minion's on the board, it's strong. As long as this is on the board, it has the effect. You can do it more than once, so you can play more than one rush minion. You can combo this. What else can you do with this card? I guess you can discover a rush minion and play that. Yeah, Mummy would be the obvious strong card. Evasive would be good. Dig Dig. Dig Day would be a 9/1. Like, it'd just be ridiculous. I have it at 78. While it's good, it does require other things to happen. The stat line is not as favorable as a 3/4, but obviously the impact of this card is insane. How many rush minions have Death Round? I'm not sure. Let's see. Legendary. Rattlegore. 9 mana 9/9. It's the Gorehowl version of into a minion. In a minion, it's Gorehowl in a minion form. 9 mana 9/9. When it dies, it comes back with 1 less health and 1 less attack. Comes back as an 8/8, 7/7, 6/6, 5/5. If you see a 5/5 Rattlegore in Arena, something's wrong with that game. Like, this card you'll probably never see this card anything less than a 7/7. Like, the fact that it got to a 7/7 meant that it had to soak up 18 damage worth of damage. or 17 damage worth of damage. Like, what the fuck? Why is your opponent putting 17 damage into a Rattlegore? So, to me, this card is basically a 9 mana Colossus of the Moon, and Colossus of the Moon never did anything for nobody. It's just a big stat stick. They both get hard removed, and if they don't get removed, you just win the game. So you don't need the reoccurring effect from this card more than once, most likely to end games. So a 9 mana 9/9, if you can ignore it, that's what you're gonna do. And how many turns does it take for Rattlegore to, get whittled down? Like it's not gonna happen, right? You might as well just do Death Rattle, resummon itself, and then that's it. Call it a day. You don't give it like some fancy effect where it resummons at -1/-1. But with that said, it's still a 73, which I think is quite good. 73 is quite good. I would pick it over like maybe Hogger. Hogger's hasn't aged too well. I think Hogger's like a 71, so I put it at 73. I'd pick it over Hogger. I think Brightwing is roughly around 73. So this card's another value bomb, right? So I don't think it's gonna light the world on fire or anything like that, but it's decent as a late game finisher. Would you pick it over Colossus of the Moon? Yes, I think it's a better Colossus of the Moon. First of all, it's 1 mana less. It's 1 mana less for basically the same thing. So it's a big deal, right? A 9/9 and a 10/10 don't make a big difference. Comparable to Proto Drake and the Rogue 7/5. Yeah, but the extra mana does matter too, right? So both those cards are better than Rattlegore for sure. But yeah, it's comparable. Okay, let's move on. Demon Hunter. So we're doing class only cards, and we'll do the dual class cards later. Just because the issue with the filtering for the dual class cards classifies them as neutrals, so it's impossible for me to have them sorted out properly. What's Colossus of the Moon score in Hearts Arena? It's 63 or 62. Not very flattering, but the card is never shown to be extremely good. Alright, it's Demon Hunter, 4 mana 4/2, Marrow Slicer. So, I mean, we're seeing a lot of these true silver stat lines. Very solid stats for the mana curve, for the mana cost. Battlecry shuffle 2 fragments your deck. Very solid. Nothing wrong. It's a generator for your shards if you have a deck for it, and it's a very good card. The shards are good even if you don't have synergy with shards. So it's a very good card. You're going to draft it as Demon Hunter. It's an Arcanite Reaper for 5. It's identical to Arcanite Reaper with the Battlecry. But yeah, I have it as an 85. 85 seems reasonable for Demon Hunter. The problem with Demon Hunter is that they have lots of weapons and their hero power is a ping. So I mean, it's a good and bad thing, but they don't need more weapons kind of thing. If you give this weapon to like Priest, it'll be like 110 or something, right? Like class with no initiative but this class has tons of initiative. Okay, so we have another shard guy. Soul Shard, Lapidary. 5 mana 5/5 Battle Cry. Destroy a shard in your deck to give your hero +5 attack this turn. Obviously insane effect with the shard upside if the upside goes off. So like I said, I penalize the shard mechanic because I don't feel like there's enough generators to properly have it in the deck to make it work at the appropriate times. So like it's one thing to have this card in your hand, it's another thing to have the shards in your deck, and it's another thing to play this with the shards in your deck. So I don't think it's a very viable mechanic, but the upside is obviously very strong. I have this at a 73. A baseline 5/5 is a 55, so the upside is definitely there. I compared this to Cumulo Maximus, which is the 5/5 Shaman Elemental, deals 5 damage, so it's better than this. I think that card is at a 75, So I put this at 73. So I think I might even drop this a little bit more. It's probably not even that good. 71 I think is probably okay. Violfine Trainer. So it's a 4 mana 5/4 stats. Good stats. Outcast summon 2 1/1 demons. I mean, on turn 4, if you play this on Outcast, it's very strong. Like, that's a lot of stats for 4 mana. But without it, it's still very, very reasonable. It's still 4 mana 5/4. I have it at 72. Yeti's at 66. So I like this card over Yeti. Yep. Oh yeah, I like this card. Dark Iron Dwarf is roughly like a 75. So. Alright, this card, I think a lot of people like this card. I heard a lot of rumblings. Fell Guardian, 7 mana. Summon 3 1/2 demons with taunt. Cost 1 less whenever a friendly minion dies. A lot of people were comparing this to, I heard people comparing this to Corridor Creeper. I don't think it's the same because Corridor Creeper is any minion, so basically it speeds up the reduction cost. So this card's not even on that same level. Also a 5/5 is way more impactful than 3 1/2 taunts. So I don't think this is on Corridor Creeper level, but I could, like, realistically, what are you looking to pay? Like, if you paid 4 mana for 3 1/2 taunts, is that worth it? I mean, it's probably an average card if you get it down to 4 mana. It's good if you get it down to 3 mana. I don't think it's super good. It's an expensive spell. As a top deck, I mean, you get 3 small taunts. You know, I have it at 65. It might be a little bit high the more I think about it, but I mean, it's a good tempo play if you get it for like 2 mana. But it depends how spammy your Demon Hunter deck is, right? Yeah, it depends on your deck. But in the late game, like, it could win you the game, right? 0 mana or 2 mana or 1 mana triple taunts that blocks your big guys. Yeah. No, it has to be in your hand. Oh wait, does it? I feel like it has to be in your hand. Yeah, only in hand. Yeah. I feel like it was only in your hand. Poor man, Eye of the Storm. Yeah, I feel like maybe it's even too high here. Like, I'm not huge on this card. I don't like this card at all. But I think it does have some use. Like, I would probably pick this over a generic 3 mana 3/3. I would probably pick it over a generic curve 2-drop. Like, it does have some upside. Next card, Double Jump. 1 mana, draw an outcast card from your deck. It's interesting because they probably should have made Demon Hunter a 1-cost Discover card. Discover an outcast card. That would have been interesting. But instead, they have a card that makes you draw a card from your deck. So the thing that's good about this card is that when you draw the card, I believe the card is in outcast position. So that's a good thing. The bad thing is it only works if you have an outcast card in your deck. So yeah, I don't know. 1 mana draw card that has the outcast upside could be good. You're paying 1 extra for the outcast upside. So example, Spectral Sight would be 3 mana for 2 cards. Which isn't that good, but if you need it, then you need it. So I think like 55 is an average card. It's okay. It's probably draftable. You might take this over like pick Krolesk. Oh, sorry, River Krolesk. Yeah, you might take this over like River Croc once in a while. Like, you know, they're in a rough range, right? Circle of Hatred. This card's insane. I have it at 100. 7 mana, deal 3 damage to all minions. Summon a 3/3 spirit for every minion killed. So this includes the ones that you kill on your own side. So you could technically upgrade your own board while adding to your board if you kill something on their side. I have it at 100. I think it could be even higher than 100 because This card doesn't need much to be good. If it kills 2 minions, you kill 2 minions for 7 mana and you generate 6/6 worth of stats. That's basically like Abyssal Enforcer power levels, right? It doesn't need much to be good, and you're going to be on the winning end of this probably almost always if you play this card. 3 damage is not too far off from Flame Strike for 7 mana. It does hurt your own side, but you would only play this in a very advantageous spot, and when you play this, you probably win the game. It's expensive, which probably holds it back a little bit, but it's it's a very, very good card. Very good card. So I have it at 100. 100 puts it like Glaive-bound Adept. Like I might even take this card over Glaive-bound. Wrap Golem, I think it's in the similar range, 100, low hundreds. Next card, Shard Shatter Mystic, 3 mana 3/2, destroy a fragment, deal 3 damage to all other minions. So another double-sided board clear for 3 damage. I have it at 72. The body itself is probably worth like 45. So the upside on this card is pretty huge if you can play it. So it's a 3 mana basically board clear with the 3/2. Obviously insanely strong card, but you need the shard upside. I think it might be a bit high at 72. I probably have to think about this card a little bit more, but I don't feel like the shard mechanic is going to be worthwhile or even going to be that common. So I think this card could be a lot worse. Yeah, I could see this card being worse. I'm gonna have to look into it, but I think 72 it might be too high for this card. Yeah, compared to Dustbreaker, Dustbreakers would be insane right now, just based on the amount of Dragon Synergy available. But this card, I think it probably should be lower. I'm not huge on the shard mechanic. I think it's gonna be pretty rare. Yeah, Librams. That's actually something that I thought about too. It's like the Librams. Glide, 4 mana, 4 mana spell from DH. Shuffle your hand into your deck, draw 4 cards. Outcast, your opponent does the same. So it's a pretty interesting card. It's likely to be in the outcast position. That's kind of how I feel with these draw cards for DH. If you just play properly, your draw cards will be played near the end when you're out of stuff. So they're likely to be in the outcast position. So I think the chances that you get this in outcast position is probably high. It's a 4 mana, draw 4 cards. So you're not going to play 4 mana on turn 4 to do this. You're just going to wait until the right spot and then you're going to play this. The problem with this is that the outcast can help your opponent. So it's an interesting card. I like it. I think it's going to be more beneficial to you more often. It's not a 4 mana sprint, even though everyone thinks it's a 4 mana sprint, but it's a great way to equalize the game. In a top deck situation where you're super behind, this card flattens the game. You bring his 4 cards, bring your 4 cards, and then hope that that's good enough, right? But I don't know. I think it's good. I don't think it's going to be insane. I have it at 68, which is better than most draw cards for fair value. Like I said, Arcane Intellect and Mage is like a low 60, so I have it a bit higher. But strong cards like draw 2 for 2 is like an 80. So this card I have at 68. I'm a little bit, I think it's an okay rating. I don't think it can be too much higher without being overly optimistic. And I think if you give it too low, I think it's being too pessimistic on this card. Even if it draws 2, I think it's quite fair. The disruption from this card can be huge too. Ridiculously overrating this card. I feel like this is okay rating. Like I said, if I rate it more, I feel like it's being very optimistic. And I think if I dropped it too low, if I put it as an average card, I think I'm not giving it enough credit. But I initially like this card, and I feel like it can do a lot. It's kind of like Divine Favor. In certain decks, it can be very strong. Okay, moving on. Mage Hunter. So you got 3-mana 2/3 rush. Whenever this minion attacks a minion, silence it. So one, it has to attack a minion. And yeah, I mean, I compared it to an owl, to be honest. It's a 3-mana 2/1 owl, silence a minion. The owl is targetable, but it's a 2/1. This is a 2/3, but you have to attack a minion. But the best thing about this card is that it's a body, right? It's a 2/3 body that can kill something, like kill Og Merchant or whatever, right? So it doesn't necessarily need to be played as a silence. So, but overall, it's still only a 2/3 rush minion for 3, so it's still pretty weak. Sometimes the silence is totally irrelevant, and sometimes you're throwing away a 3-cost minion just to silence a minion. Like for example, if you run this into Octosari, you know, you just killed off your own minion. Whereas the owl, you can just, you know, play the owl instead of killing it off, right? But I think it's okay. I mean, it's probably a bit more flexible than the owl, so at least it's playable with a 2/3 body as opposed to 2/1. So I think it's fine. It's nothing insane, but it's nothing too terrible. Epic card, Ancient Hellhound. I had to read this card again, but it's actually decent the more I read it. So its ability, even though it's a 9-cost card for 10/10, I think it's pretty good. I mean, it basically deals 1 damage, right? If it takes away 1 health from 1 minion, if it takes away 1 health from a 1/1, it dies, right? So it basically deals 1 damage to the whole board. It's actually better than 1 damage because it weakens their attack as well. So it's even better than, like, for example, Despicable Dreadlord's ability. So I think it's decent, but for 9 mana to deal 1 damage, it's not enough for it to be insane. And a 10/10 can be, you know, it's hard removable, right? But this guy's a big boy. If you get him from a random generated thing and you need value, this thing does a lot. It needs to be cheated out. Yeah, there's some ways to make this work. I mean, this card makes Bane of Doom, I think, insane, right? Bane of Doom can be any demon, right? So this makes Bane of Doom kind of insane. But yeah, it's just a big boy. Its effect is good, but it's too expensive. Okay, so new DH Legendary, Star Student, Stelina, 4 mana 4/3. Outcast, look at 3 cards in your opponent's hand, shuffle 1 of them into their deck. Hey, that's a pretty strong ability. Outcast. I have it as 68. I think it's situational. I think it's situational. I don't think it's going to be in the outcast position too often. Not as often as you want it to be. In the turns that you want it to be. That's my opinion. Obviously the effect is very strong, but I think if you're forced into playing this for tempo earlier, obviously it's not very good. I think it has a 20-point boost over the base stat line of 4 mana 4/3. So it's going to come down to how often this is going to be in the outcast position in a turn where you want it to be and you want to play this card. Because if you play this card on turn 4, it might not be the best turn for you to play this card in the outcast. So you might want to save it for another turn. But I don't know. The effect is good, but probably a bit inconsistent. So I'm a little bit conservative with the rating. It's only a 68 here. What does Outcast mean? Outcast means it has to be in the far left or the far right card to trigger.